I think 1856, a slave, Margaret Garner, escaped with her family and with her kids. And she was soon recaptured by her slave master. But as he entered the room, Margaret Garner grabbed the oldest of her children and slit the child's throat and called out to the kid's grandmother that she should do likewise with the other children, because, as she said, she would rather that those children were looked after by God than that they were forced to go back into slavery. And this became really widely and popularly known as the modern Medea. And it's also the story that Sarah Parker Remond uses most often and retells most often while she's doing her lecture tour all around Great Britain, because she's particularly interested in sort of drawing attention to the plight of women in slavery. I'm Justine McConnell. I'm currently a Leverhulme postdoctoral research associate at the Archive of Performances of Greek and Roman Drama, so the APGRD at Oxford. My doctorate, which is about to be published as a book, was on post-colonial responses to the Odyssey, and I'm really interested in African-American and Afro-Caribbean and African kind of responses to classical literature. Sarah Parker Remond was an African-American female feminist abolitionist who came over to Britain to do an anti-slavery lecture tour, and while she was here she enrolled at Bedford College for a couple of years and studied Latin there. Bedford College was founded in 1849 by Elizabeth Reed to be a women's college and provide education at university level for women. What she was doing was also being very involved in kind of political causes, especially the anti-slavery movement, and that in the States. So she had people like Harriet Martineau come and stay with her, and she also had Sarah Parker Remond stay with her for the duration of her stay over here. So she came to London because she'd already been making a name for herself on this anti-slavery lecture tour in the States. Her family was already very involved in this. Her older brother Charles was the foremost African-American anti-slavery speaker until Frederick Douglass came on the scene. So she'd kind of been brought up in this whole kind of environment, and she was doing very well there, so they decided that they would ask her to come over to Britain and sort of take that message over to Britain and try and get support from people on this side of the pond for it.
Why on earth are we here in this cemetery?
Well, you might ask. We're here because buried right here is Edward Spencer Beasley, who was Professor of Latin at Bedford College at the time that Sarah Parker Remond was there. And Beasley, actually, Henry, are you going to talk about Beasley?
Edward Spencer Beasley was Professor of Latin at Bedford College, and he was also an advocate for the Union of Workers of the World. In 1864, he chaired the historic meeting at St Martin's Hall, where it was unanimously decided that an international organisation of workers should be established. Also at this meeting was Karl Marx. He was a close friend of Beasley. Afterwards, it was Karl Marx who drew up the organisational programme of the newly formed International Working Men's Association, the IWA. Now, what does this show? The examples of Sarah Parker Remond and Edward Beasley remind us that classics and classical culture were not simply the preserve of a conservative elite, but actually played a large part in the lives of radical men and women who are actively fighting for the rights of the downtrodden in British and American society. On Beasley's grave are written the words absens adsis. Being absent, may you be present. Or, now you are gone, may you be here. What better epitaph for a man who should be remembered equally for his commitment to educational and societal reform?